Welcome to Old God Talks to Me, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. Ladies, if you want to know what your guy is thinking, this podcast is for women too. Each week, a special guest helps you create that life you've imagined. We talk anti-aging medicine, personal growth, relationships and hot sex. Yeah, you hear me, getting laid more frequently, other guy vices, and topics that many don't want to talk about but need to. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to be old. Don't want to miss anything? Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast. And be sure to go to www.thestandard.academy/magazine and grab a free copy of our new digital magazine, The Standard Academy, where we talk about erogenous zones, growing hair back, and other things that will help you create that kick-ass life. Now get ready to listen up and share with friends.
So let's talk a little bit now about kind of switch gears here a little bit. And you're in a committed relationship. Kids show up, things happen. At first you thought that them coming into your bedroom when they were small was a really good idea. Then you realize that kind of stops some activities in the morning sometimes. And why should you continue dating when you're in a committed relationship?
I'm not sure I understand the question. What do you mean? Why should, you're being dating your partner. Sorry. Okay. Now I get it.
Yeah. Dating your partner. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because there's a cycle in a relationship. So in the beginning of the relationship, the honeymoon phase lasts for a certain amount of months or a couple years. And then you go into the comfort level, and things do get stale. And a lot of times, depending on where you are, practical life, is what takes up all of your conversation. That's why people get divorced maybe when their kids leave, because what kept them together was the kids and the busyness. So you have to make an effort to look good for your partner. If you don't have intimacy, sex, that physical connection, which is why you're in a romantic relationship, your relationship will die. One party's going to be disappointed. That's when people can step out of a relationship. So you want to make sure to keep the spark alive. And so it's a fact that doing new things creates excitement around your relationship. So I was talking about this on Valentine's Day. And in my opinion, Valentine's Day is one day of the year. Treat your partner with ongoing small gestures every day. That's a cumulative love bank that you do. But, some people have expectations. So it's always respect, but you want to look hot for your partner. You want to have fun, and you want to maintain that spark. And sometimes, women just want to go to sleep because they're exhausted looking after the kids and working or whatever. And the guy wants to have sex. So sometimes you have to do the obligatory. Like, you have to have a conversation around like, what's going to make us happen, and invest that way. So newness, anything new is exciting in a relationship, including new experiences. But what also helps to keep the romance alive is to hang out with couples that are also equally positive. Studies have shown that's like a rubbing off thing that's really, really good. And in addition to like date night and having fun, because relationships do have to have some lightness. They can't all be heavy, worried about paying the bills, worried about my job or whatever. You want to create that fun that you might have in your other relationships outside of your partnership. And also going down memory lane is another way to have a great date night, like to relive and recreate memories that you've had with your partner that you really remember. Like, you had a great trip to Jamaica, or what you loved most about living in Phoenix, and have a reminiscing kind of stuff like that. And that helps to bond you as well.
Yeah. I think one of the things that happens to couples is that over time they get into a rut of the status quo, and there's no such thing as status quo. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. It's just status quo doesn't exist. And I think that one of the things that I do, is flirt. Yeah. I flirt all the time, and I say stuff to my wife that cringes, and sort of maybe she'll give me a low pat. But I say it because it's funny, and I think also it makes her feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It makes her, one of the things that's important for a guy to understand is that you need to make your wife, your significant other, feel like a woman. I think a lot of guys forget that, and they don't do the flirting. They don't pretend like they're still on the hunt. And to a certain extent, you always are, because you want to have intimacy, and that's just a way to preserve it and to make it fun.
And conversely, Oris, to that point, a lot of women don't tell their husband what's great about them. So, or make them feel hot, or special, or say, Oris, you look super sexy today. Like, I mean, there has to be a reciprocity there. And that's like the fun, playful side and the connection. And it's really important into a relationship to don't take someone for granted. Like, tell them why you appreciate them. So, it's important for, in a partnership, to, I think, every single day, say something nice. And also, you're right, relationships ebb and flow. And I think most relationships come close to divorce, or can, depending on what's going on in your life. And you can recover if you're able to communicate and navigate and learn to deal with conflict and resolution, because shit is always happening. And it's not putting your head in the sand, it's like addressing it and having conversations that are safe, that don't make the other person feel off put.
Yeah. I've been reading a book called The Road Less Stupid. And it's really good. It's a great book. Yeah. And he talks about it. He says, problems that you ignore don't go away.
Absolutely.
Again, also the famous Canadian Jordan Peterson writes about this.
Yeah.
He talks about how a small problem at the beginning, maybe a bad remark or whatever, that is left unattended, can grow over time and materialize, and all of a sudden you find out that your person is having an affair. There's also resentment. There's unspoken resentment. So dealing with things when they're small, when the issues are small, is very important. You just don't ignore them, because they're not going away.
And some people are afraid of having a chat, so you have to make sure that it's not ominous, and just say, you have to pick a safe space. And there's a whole conversation around how to address that kind of stuff. But you're right, stuff snowballs and becomes a much bigger issue if you don't solve it.
Yeah, I'm laughing because we used to have family meetings with my two daughters, and it wasn't considered a true family meeting unless someone cried.
I love that. So, you and I have similar backgrounds. And so Ukrainians and Eastern Europeans, we have boisterous family conversations. And one thing, I have two boys, is and my brother is really close with us, is our kids have learned resiliency, and it's okay to have explosive conversations where you disagree, and fighting is not a deal breaker. You can have these conversations, lay your cards on the table, and come back and you're fine. Like, you clear the air and don't hold it down.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that we fighting as just dealing with hard issues and disappointments. And I think a lot of people tend to protect their kids too much these days.
Yeah.
And so they don't learn the resiliency that's necessary for life. And consequently, they get stuck in victim mode, which is very popular. And there's lots of rewards for being a victim. And, it's unfortunate that's the case, because there's also lots of negatives to being a victim all the time. One of them is probably your being unhappy on a regular and continual basis. So let's say somebody is out there, and kind of going full circle here a little bit. Let's say they're typically probably in their 50s or so, getting divorced, and getting back into the dating scene. What's your recommendation on that? How do you guide someone who's in that particular situation?
Well, I think you have to, number one, you have to be proactive. So choose the course of action that's best for you. And nothing's going to change if you miraculously hope that something's going to happen. So you have to be proactive. You can meet someone anywhere. So you can optimize your social calendar. There's lots of singles groups that you can go to. I think too, you have to have a really positive mindset. No one wants to be around a Debbie Downer or someone who's negative. So you really want to put your best foot forward. And that speaks to the presentation that we spoke about. So invest in how you look, because you can meet someone anywhere. You can meet them squeezing a cantaloupe, I say, at the grocery store. So you want to engage with your surroundings. You can meet someone in real life. One of the things I don't like about today is that everyone's looking at their phone. Like, pay attention to what's going on in your environment. I would say too, in terms of dating, understand the city that you live in and your market and what's common there in terms of activities. So you're in Las Vegas. I'm headquartered in Vancouver. Vancouver is the sportiest city in Canada and most active. Everyone's doing stuff outdoors. So if you're a single, it doesn't matter what the age is, people are biking, they're skiing, they're hiking, they're outdoors. So join the groups that fit your market. Whereas on the East Coast, I grew up in Montreal and I worked in Toronto, sometimes more of an indoor vibe, more arts and culture and dynamic depending on stuff. So understand your market, what's going on in your market. And my number one advice to any single person is to expand and open up your mindset and your parameters to meet someone. Don't be closed-minded, be expansive in your thinking, and be open to who you fall in love with, because often you fall in love with someone who you're not expecting. And that's the chemistry, and it's how someone makes you feel. So the more open-minded and non-judgy you are, the better your chance of success. And look at each person with a fresh set of eyes. So one of the mistakes that I find a lot too is people make assumptions. I'm going to use Russia again because we talked about Russia. They meet someone from Russia and they assume that all Russians are this way. And so that's a flawed perception. You have to look at how the person treats you, how they present, how they communicate, what your common values are. So don't make sweeping generalizations about people, individuals, cultures, any of that kind of stuff. Just really try to look at the person and the individual and who they are.
Yeah. So when you are working as a coach with both men and women, tell me some funny horror stories of first dates, or maybe later on second dates or whatever.
I wouldn't say horror stories. I'm just trying to think, because we try to really guide people on what makes a good first date. Universally, what happens is you can be an accomplished CEO and you can still be nervous on a first date. So what makes a bad first date is if you don't show up on time. It creates anxiety for the other person. So you really have to be mindful of that, because it just ruins the whole tone. So for example, we had a date where a person who was a CEO was meeting someone and he was 15 minutes late. And for whatever reason, he didn't call her or text her. And she basically gave him 10 minutes and walked out. And there was no way that we could salvage that because it was a lack of respect. So I would say that would make a bad first date. Basic etiquette manners in terms of if you're having a drink or you're eating, don't talk with your mouth full. Like that just will come back as negative feedback. And what really makes for a bad first date, even though we say don't talk about your exes, don't talk about your wife, don't talk about dating, women will always sometimes try to get in there and probe. And I say to the person, acknowledge the statement, say we can talk about that as a later date and change. But what comes back as negative feedback is someone going on and on about their ex. Anything negative or derogatory or whatever just comes back awful in terms of feedback. And then we don't get to a second date. So those are common things that can be off-putting for sure. And it's hard to recover from that. And then what you talked about, if you wear a stained t-shirt or look like a bum or don't put any effort into your outfit, men and women alike, because we're so visual, we make an assumption about sloppiness or the chemistry is not there or whatever. So you have to put in an effort. Leave someone wanting more every single time.
Yeah, I think that's important to put the effort in, and common courtesy is also important. I think a lot of times people don't realize that people are very conscious of time. Especially, for me, if I'm 5 minutes late, I will text somebody, let them know.
Yeah, that's just
I mean,
polite.
it's just something there, but I try not to be late.
Or can I just say one more thing about time too? So we've had, I'm not going to say a disaster, but a really off-putting first date too, where it goes like a marathon date and too much alcohol is involved, and then loose lips sink ships. And you know the expression from A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. So what makes a disaster first date after too many cocktails, people getting tipsy, having this false sense of comfortableness in that moment, they reveal way too much about themselves. And that'll come back as a negative because you don't have a connection with someone yet. They don't know who you are. They don't love you. And it's like you've just sunk your ship for date number 2 because you just opened up the kimono and it wasn't a positive thing.
Yeah. Having been single till age 40, I've made a lot of mistakes in the dating world.
Well, most people do. It's trial and error.
Yeah.
That's how you learn. You learn through pain and mistakes.
Absolutely. Nothing provides a greater lesson than pain. That's for sure. Is your life not working out? Have you tried programs and they did not work? Do you want to create a vibrant life for yourself and those that you love? Well, if you do, then get on a short call with me to find out if we're a mix. You can go to www.thestandard.academy, get to know you, and schedule a short call with me. If we're a match, great. If not, that's fine too. Either way, I'm going to have a free gift for you. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't procrastinate. Do it now. Now, you work with people. Do you work primarily with people in the Vancouver area, or do you work with people outside of that area? How do you work with people?
So our base is in Vancouver. We work in Alberta, which is a province next door. We work across the country, and we also work with people in the US on select, in a major market. So I collaborate with a lot of people in our space. We have experts that come in. We do multi-market searches. We're working with some clients who are overseas as well. So the way that I work is we bring in a team or scouts or experts that we need to help that particular individual. And there's groups within the matchmaking community as well, where we all try to help each other and collaborate with our clients. We have great clients, you have great clients, let's make some client matches. So it depends on what someone wants. And a lot of people who are successful in business or who have multiple locations may want to date within various geographic regions. And we customize our packages. But we do a lot of coaching as well. Like that is such a key component for matchmaking. It's not just the person, and it's opening the eyes to the clients about possibilities and meeting someone who you may have dismissed. We've set up couples who saw each other online, like, oh no, I don't want to meet that person. And a good matchmaker has an eye for intuition and chemistry, and we got them to meet each other, and then they're together. So this is where that snap judgment, so quick to dismiss, online is an immensely valuable tool, but it's designed to screen people on superficial qualities. And we just they're looking for people who are perfect. There's no such thing. And we vote people off the island, for ridiculous reasons.
Yeah. It's also depends on where you are at what point in your life. My wife and I, had we met 10 years earlier, we would never have gotten married. And she and I both know that. I mean, we were just completely different individuals at that point in our lives, and it wouldn't have happened. We probably would have gotten into a fight and everything else, and she's a bitch, he's an asshole. That kind of, it would have been pretty ugly, but we were very, very different. So people change also. That's, I think,
and everything is about timing too. Like sometimes, if they're not available now, someone could be available and right for you at a later moment, like what you just said. Or there's even a trend too. Sometimes people split, and then there was a love that they had when they were younger in their 20s, and they reconnect, let's say on Facebook or somewhere else. And then that connection comes back to when they were younger, but you're more
Mhm.
mature and ready for a relationship. We talk about in our business, when I deal with people, relationship readiness and what work do you need before, because you can introduce someone to an amazing person, but if you're not ready and receptive, it's not going to work.
Yeah, yeah. So, Susan, if somebody wanted to work with you, and we're going to have you provide your contact information, so we're going to have that in the show notes. But what's the excuse me, what's the process of working with you, if you want a dating coach?
So, well, we do matchmaking and we also do dating coaches, and we have custom packages. So the first thing is to have a conversation. Then we profile someone, and then we have a further conversation in terms of, we have a basic profile with questions that's been designed to get a sense of someone, who they are and what their preferences are. And then we have a further conversation in terms of what is needed, whether it's styling, new photography, because dating is a game and you have to know how to play it. So it's all about packaging. It's the same thing with a job search. You're not going to lead with a negative, you're going to lead with a positive. So it's all about packaging, presentation, positioning, and then we decide what the best option is in terms of a package, whether we do a search, whether we just do coaching. If someone hasn't done online coaching, we have people too that can manage their online profiles, because that's going to be critical mass. But some people don't know how to date. They don't know how to communicate. It's a full-time job and it's exhausting. So there's different levels and options in terms of how we can work for someone.
Yeah. And Susan, what's your percentage of balance? And we picked that 35 number as an age.
Mm-hmm.
How much of coaching do you do in terms of dating with people under 35 versus those over 35?
I would say the younger people, we do a fair bit of coaching, just because they're not getting this success. And a lot of them are on dating apps or online profiles, and they're not maximizing, or they're not getting the results. So younger people, that's how they meet today, or we try to get them to go out into, God forbid, real life, and do coaching that way.
Oh my gosh.
But it really, Oris, it is really unique. It's not a question of how many. We
Sure.
really look at each person, and you can have a really super mature person in their 20s, and you can have someone who's like a toddler still in their 50s. So it depends on experience and where they are. And we really look at the person, where we think there's the gaps, and how we work together. There really is no cookie cutter. And the people, that we like to work with a lot are men in terms of search clients. They've tried everything. They don't have the time. People who recognize the value of an expert and outsourcing. And, you really have to look at what's been working and what hasn't been working, and what people have done to achieve their goals. And a lot of times people repeat really bad patterns. They go for the wrong guy. I've still dealt with women in their 60s who have this thing for bad boys. I'm like, what you said before, well, how's that working for you? Like, they haven't broken out of this pattern. And sometimes we have counselors that come in too, so that are accredited psychologists who look into your attachment theory is a big thing. Like, what is your historical pattern?
Yeah, I mean, you see that all the time. Where either they're marrying the bad boy, or they're marrying the woman who is she's just like the woman you just divorced, except she has a different first name.
Yes.
It's like, why you're repeating the same mistake over again. And I think a lot of times before even, especially if you're in a divorce situation, you need to take a good inventory of yourself before you start going out there into the dating space. To at least that's what I believe, because otherwise you're going to end up repeating that same mistake again over and over. And
you don't want to bring that baggage too. And a lot of women, and I'm going to talk about women and men again, women ask for help. They're typically vulnerable in group settings. You can go to a bathroom and find out something a lot about someone. And a lot of men may be reluctant and not work as much on themselves. And I always say too, I'm friends with a divorced family lawyer in my business group, and I say, get them out of divorce court so you can start working on them and they can see what the path is. But a lot of men will jump into someone else's bed, and not reflect or do anything or think. And you're right about that. Like, men often can have a typology and repeat it, different first name. Look at the internal qualities. You cannot just have the external hot factor without the common values and things like that.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, Susan.
Thank you, Oris. You're a great interviewer.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on, and so, as I mentioned, how to get a hold of you will be in the show notes. So we'll have the links there so you can find your people. And so again, thank you. And this is Oris, the official old guy at oldguytalkstome.com. If you have not already, be sure to go get my free digital magazine at thestandard.academy/magazine, where, well, one of the articles is one secret place to touch a woman. And it's not her clitoris, because that's not a secret place. There's others. And so until next time, remember, it's all about creating a kick-ass life for yourself and those that you love.
Thank you for joining Dr. Orist and his incredible guest. Like what you heard and learned? Then be sure to do 3 things. 1, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. 2, share this with someone who may need to hear it. 3, leave a review and rate this podcast. Opt in at www.thestandard.academy/magazine and get our free digital magazine with savings, articles, and deeper dives into cool controversy. Be the guy who takes action. Without action, you're not going to get the results you want. Thank you again, and make it a great day.